Yo, what's up, boys and girls of the Mirko? It's your boy, Mirko. Welcome to the new segment, new kind of mirror recap. We've never kind of done this before. We've always done it solo, or usually we have one mic and we talk in, the office. This is the first time ever we're doing it on my office room. This is the first time we're doing it in the living room, sofa, with the boys. We got Arashi here and Gonie. Arashi, Gonie, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing good.
I'm doing great. I'm just really hungry right now.
I don't pay them with anything, so Arashi here is a slave. Gonie's also a slave currently. We're all slaves technically, right?
I'm a nerd.
Yeah, we're nerds. But man, firstly, massive shout out to ROG for giving us, this laptop for us to record all this. So Ace is tough. Go ahead and get yours today, my dudes. You're gonna like this.
Oh.
Military grade build quality, Arashi, with amazing specs. I mean, you guys can see the product later on. It's gonna be some like B-roll on it. Yeah. What do you think about it, Arashi? What do you think about it?
First glance, first impression.
The laptop?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks clean.
Thank you again to Tough Gaming for giving us this laptop for the purpose of recording. It is tough, but we got a crazy week earlier, 2 days ago, that just wrapped up. Week number 1 of MPL-ID just wrapped up. We'll get to MPL Peach as well later on, but we're sticking to MPL-ID first. So let's just talk about Day 1 surprises first, right? Day 1, we didn't really get too many surprises, unless you want to count that as a surprise. TLID did actually end up losing to EVOS in day number 1. I think biggest team to talk about right now, the biggest subject would be EVOS, Albert in the roster. Number 1 MVP regular season currently for week 1. Key as well. So let's talk about EVOS. What do you guys think EVOS have done to do so well, and did you expect EVOS to do this well?
So I feel like I didn't think they were going to do that well. I thought they were going to do better, but I thought it would take a bit more time. And on top of that, I feel like the synergy of the team is like really, really good. Because I feel like they're still the proper duo and they're experienced, but I thought it would take a bit longer, especially to mesh with the rest of the team. But to be fair, a lot of the big plays they made generally are just with Key, Albert, and one other person. You didn't see a lot of complex maneuvers that involve 5 people. You saw complex maneuvers with 3 maybe, right? They didn't rely on a lot of complex strategies technically. A lot of it is just pick off and engage, right? So I feel like it's a great approach, knowing their strengths and weaknesses. So I think there's credit to the coach there for actually coming up with a strategy that can be executed really well.
I mean, which is very interesting, right? Because you mentioned Key Albert, and they're the new players of EVOS Glory. So it just shows that this season, it's a whole new ball game, even for the teams. And Albert, Key, I agree with you, Rashi. I did not expect them to do this well so early. But then again, it's week 1. Things can definitely change week 2. Let's hope for the best for EVOS Glory, for Albert and Key, especially XBTR, by the way. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned the pickoffs, and I feel like that is what Key is all about, right? In the roamer position, him with the jawhead season 7, he really likes the pickoffs, and I guess for now it is still his strong suit. Let's see though, week 2. But yeah, I mean, as maybe for you guys, EVOS fans, you're liking week 1.
Yeah.
By the way, what do you think about Nadco though?
That's
right, because I was thinking like, who's the other person who's most active in the midst of that? The roam and the jungler going for the pickoffs. Dude, Nadco, man. I think we were talking about this, and you told me like, that's the whole thing. He was in EXP lane, he played gold lane, and now he's playing mid lane like an EXP laner. He's just flickering forwards, trying to land the CC lock. So on the Vexana, it's just a great, suitable hero for him to use to its full potential. Because he was locking people down, man.
I agree, man. Firstly, I gotta say, I was one of the Natco doubters, man. Right? Like, I don't think a lot of people expected Natco to do this well. Even EVOS fans were like shitting on him already. Like, before he even started playing, everyone was like, oh my god, Natco, this guy in the gold lane who failed.
And they had cried.
But seriously, Natco, I think, had the best mid lane performance this week. I think it's safe to say he had the best. Unless you want to argue for Rins, obviously that'll be a great discussion point, because we're going to have the Classic Derby, and if both these teams stay undefeated for that, I don't think EVOS are going to stay undefeated. They're going up against BTR next week. So it's going to be a bit different, but Natco, very impressed with his performance. Safe to say he has proved the doubters wrong, especially considering, for me, the reason I thought EVOS wouldn't do too well was because they lost Deposit. I thought with Deposit, they would actually be really good because despite, Deposit's issues, I actually think he's a good player. Like on the Loyi, he's amazing. The Valentine is amazing. I got some behind the scenes scrim info as well. And in scrims, he always does the most damage, even over gold, even over jungle, which is Albert and Erlan. Aside from the mid, I think Erlan is also, well, he didn't really have a crazy performance in week 1. I'd say he made a few blunders. Mas Ade called him out on stage as well.
Right.
But I think it's a good start. For the longest time, whenever Erlan plays in MPL, he would always just get one game. The game would be a loss. He would do well individually. The game would be a loss and then he'd get subbed out. So for the first time ever, Erlan has a full match under his belt in MPL. And I'm glad to see it. I'm an Erlan Glazer. Even though he's not XBTR, still, I think he'll do well. And I think EVOS, now that Natco's performing, should not get that mid lane replacement that they were thinking about. Because before this, they were thinking about getting a mid lane replacement. It's actually, I think he was going to come in week 2 or week 3.
Wow.
But with Natco performing like this, stop. Keep this lineup. Don't change it for now.
If he keeps synergizing well with the team, I don't see why they can't just using him in the mid lane. I think the issue of hero pool though comes up as well. The Vexana stands out, right? But I don't remember too much variety coming from him as well. And I think you can say the same thing about Reggie, right? Because I believe
forgotten one.
Because I feel like when I remember Reggie from week 1, all that comes to mind is Edith. And I recall when he wasn't on the Edith, he was doing okay, but he wasn't doing amazing, It just feels like next level. So, like Gonie mentioned, it's week 1. By week 2, I think some of these, quote-unquote signature heroes are going to be respected, or at least, contested, So I feel like that's where we can start seeing maybe the future steps for EVOS, if they want to change the mid laner, if they want to try something new, a new formation, right? So
I think, again, it's week 1. If you show your cards early, people will definitely they will get a good read on you, So EVOS RRQ, you guys are top 2. You gotta bring something new or perhaps something more in your bag because other teams, they're looking up on you.
I think we'll do fine.
I mean, I know where Gonie is going with this, right? His team isn't doing too hot. It's 0-2 in week 1, so I know where Gonie is going with it.
Fair.
I know that it's kind of, it could be cope as well, to be fair. So I guess since Gonie is really he really wants to talk about his team, let's move on to Onic first. So we go from number 1 all the way to, actually, is RRQ number 1? RRQ's number 1. We'll get into RRQ in a bit, but Onic then. What the hell is wrong with Onic? Both Onics. We'll get to Onic page later, but Onic ID first. Do you think it's a roster issue because of Savero and Lutpi's absence? Or is it the draft? I think most of them, a lot of people have been saying the drafts have been horrible from Adi. I think I agree the drafts have not been too good from Adi, but clearly synergy is also a problem.
Synergy, number 1. Number 2, execution in performance in game. And number 3, then I guess the drafts come into play where I feel like they are not really that comfortable playing in the game, especially the Aurora Cho, right?
Yeah.
That game, I don't see I don't think it's Sans, I don't think it's Skiboy looking at that game or watching that game. But yeah, number 1 is synergy. I can see sure, you can see the individual performance. Yeah, there's potential, especially the new guys. CW still performing in that gold lane, but there is still just synergy lacking in that team. And the two teams, Alter Ego and RRQ, they managed to, for the first time, right? For Nino's.
Yeah, so Alter Ego beat Onic after a 12 lose streak. They've never beaten Onic. Well, they have maybe in the past, but the last 12 times it's been a loss to Onic.
it's a different time.
It's a different time. So what do you say? You think Lutpi Savero should come back? Is that the solution to the problem? Because say if it is a synergy problem, then you would usually want to stick to the same roster. But so if you guys don't know, Savero and Lutpi have been...
weeks?
They have been suspended for 4 matches. It's I think week 3. Week 3 though. I think they only play one time next week. Yeah, they only play one time next week. So week 3, the match against BTR, that's when Savera and Lutpi can come back. So if you are having synergy issues, I wonder what do you think now? Do they stick to this Res CW lineup, or do they still later on go back to the Lutpi Savera lineup despite already building chemistry with Res CW and then resetting it all over again for Savera Lutpi?
I think they should just stick to their initial plan, right? But okay. I believe their initial plan was Lutpi and Savero, which I'm sure they're still practicing on end scrims with that lineup mainly. And so I believe they should just stick with their initial plan, Adi, I still believe in you. Trust your gut.
Yeah, it's week 1. There's still week 3. There's still... After week 3, there'll be a big break. 2-week break. That's for ESL Mobile Masters. So they will have time to re-synergize again. And they did great grand finals last time they were in SBS. Arashi, speaking of Adi and the situation, ex-RRQ, by the way, right?
Right.
You've had some good times, some bad times with Adi as a coach. What are your thoughts on the current Onic situation, 0-2?
I feel like what Gonie said is fair. Again, it's very early on. And I believe that it's not beyond imagination that some teams would actually experiment, like hardcore experiment in the earlier weeks. Yeah. When it comes to the roster, though, I really do feel like it depends, right? Again, it's a pro esports team. We've seen situations like that before with with subs. If Rez and CW out of nowhere, right? They get better synergy. There's no reason why they'll be like, okay, well, we had a good plan, but now is this better, right? Especially if it turns out they kind of match up well with the rest of the teams as well. That's another factor. But on top of that, I guess it ties into, we talked about the draft earlier. We also talked about the execution. I feel like more than anything, it feels like the game plan is just weird. Correct me if I'm wrong, but did they not go with like a Granger Sicilian?
The Granger Sicilian. I think Granger
right?
Sicilian was Bigetron, but I do believe Sans also did play the Sicilian with the Granger with CW. Yes,
so I recall
against RRQ Toy with
I think
Irithel.
So my point is, I recall them having a game plan that requires late game, and they were just not doing any late game stuff. So they weren't really focusing hard on farming. They were taking a lot of fights, right? They were matching the rotations instead of trading. Maybe it stems from the draft, or maybe it stems from the execution. But it felt like when they were in the game, the plan, the idea, right, what they wanted to do in that particular game just wasn't really thought out well. And that's why it felt like against a lot of the other teams as well. It's not necessarily that the players are just doing so much better than Onyx players, right? From Alrer Ego, from RRQ. It really felt like Onyx overall, they were just doing weird things. And they weren't really moving together either. So maybe that's where the synergy issue comes in, right? It really felt like, the good synergy and the good comms is something we talked about a lot on Desk.
That was spot on, right? Like, I think a lot of the issues from even Adi's draft would be because maybe they're not comfortable playing the normal style of MLBB. Maybe they haven't been scrimming. Maybe it's been Savero and Lutpi in scrims as well. And we did get to, talk to Yeb just a bit. And he was like, yeah, I mean, it's chill. It's week 1, firstly. And we have the suspension thing that we have to deal with. So they're not in any... It doesn't look like they're stressed. It doesn't look like they're pressured. It's still Onic. They did make it to SBS finals, so they're still up there when it comes to power rankings. Even though it might change, I think, after this week. I think definitely it'll change. I think we're going to have Onic a bit lower. But what do you guys think about Onic's situation right now? Do you think it's the draft? Do you think it's the performance? Because I think it's kind of both. So let's move on to the next team, which is going to be RRQ, because RRQ, similar to EVOS, had an amazing week. And I think against NAVI was kind of predicted, right? Like against NAVI, we don't really see NAVI as a threat just yet. I don't know how they were able to make it close against Liquid. We'll get to that. But 2-0 from RRQ, and it was a stomp. They outclassed RRQ. They outclassed NAVI. I was super surprised by this. Firstly, they decided to play Hazel over Sutsujin.
Right.
I just want to say, I've been a Hazel Glazer for a long time. Rookie of the week. First week when Geek Fam played with Hazel, I remember when I called Ray the worst jungler. That was season 11 or 12. Was it
more on Ray later?
13.
By the
Yeah,
way,
we'll get on that later.
13.
Season 13. It was utility jungle meta, and Geek Fam had Ray and Hazel. I said Hazel was the better choice for utility meta. If it was an assassin, maybe it would be different, right? Because Ray is an assassin player even in MDL. It's never been too good on utility, but now, holy moly, we saw the potential. Well, I see what he's built on from the past 2 seasons. Even though he's not a starter in RRQ, was not a starter in Geek Fam either, he's improved so much. There were still some very glaring amateur blunders, I would say, right? Going in a bit too deep sometimes, missing out on some big skills. We saw that from Nile too, by the way. And
not a good game. Not a good match.
Oh my god. We'll have to talk about Nile. I completely forgot about Nile. Holy moly.
Suyo 3 games.
Yeah, let's go back to Nile first. What the is wrong with Nile? Like what?
Damn,
how?
the F-bomb.
Because I expect big things from Nile. This guy is a good player. In Alter Ego, he single-handedly carried that team. He had 4 guys who were just there for the vibes at Nile. I'll be honest with you. In Geek Fam, if it wasn't for having Nile in the team as well, I don't think they would have made it to M series either. But obviously that was with Luke, Beloy, and Aboyd. So everybody was crucial in that team. I always thought when he was in Alter Ego, if he does get like 4 other players who are good as him, or even better than him, Onic, he will be able to perform, and he'll be able to pull off some really good plays. But no, is it the nerves? Because he has been wanting to play with this MPL lineup for a long time. Now, did he get nervous?
Yeah. I think that is the case, nervousness. And I think going in mentality-wise, I think he carried as a liability. You know, I think it was a burden to him, like replacing Kyrie against his former team as well.
That's true.
So I think going in, it wasn't a positive mindset. Again, if I'm wrong, sure, whatever. But I think that is just my opinion. But you can see, based on his performance, like, yeah, there was no killer instinct whatsoever. It was hard when he was under. Yeah, it was hard as a Suyo going in, looking for trays and whatnot. He got soloed, I believe, a couple of times. And yeah, it shows that it wasn't his best in that game or in that match.
Yeah.
Shame.
What about you, Arashi? Do you have any thoughts about Niall? Is it just nerves?
Yeah, I'm curious to why they made the decision to like
swap out Kai.
Right.
So from what I know, the combo is Kyrie, Savero, Lutpi, Niall, Rez, CW when they scrim.
Interesting. Okay. Well, again, if that's the case, why did we see Kyrie first? You see what I mean? Like, so that whole thing was kind of off to me, right? And we talked about synergy and getting used to and swapping in and out. Well, this is an example, right? They've tried Kyrie with the quote-unquote combo, and now they kind of plug and play the Niall into it, and maybe it just like resulted in a lot of discrepancies, right? A lot of like minor things that kind of added up. Not to mention, again, the mental component. I think the mental component of esports is severely underappreciated by a lot of people. In Indonesia in particular, I think I would even say, right? Yeah. A lot of people are just like, oh, as long as you got, if you can have the skills to back it up, you have the hero pool, then you're great. Like, no, right? There's the pressure component, there's the synergy, the communication, the foresight and all that. So it's not too surprising to say that he has a dip in performance, right? Because by all means, he has experience, he's been places, he's been to tournaments, but he's not like a very well-seasoned veteran. Right, he's not a veteran of like 5 years, 4 years. You know, it's not beyond imagination. Again, that he will have like a dip because of these other factors.
So let's move on to the Hazel then, right? Because like again, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Whether you think Niall is just bad now, or if it's a trust the process thing. Because yeah, I think it's a trust the process thing, but I was still disappointed with his performance. Right. RRQ Hazel. I don't think we need to talk about the NAVI game. Do we need to talk about the NAVI game?
I don't really think so. Yeah. I felt a lot of people had that expectation. Yeah. And it did happen as expected, so nothing too crazy there.
One of the predictable matches this week, and that's crazy because there were a lot of predictable matches this week that just didn't go as planned. So, so RRQ, Hazel, playing him in the Royal Derby.
Yeah.
Against Onic, and it was Kyrie playing. It wasn't Niall, so there was no excuse of like, oh, inferior jungle, maybe nerves. It's a veteran. It's Kyrie. It's the god in the jungle. RRQ, I gotta say, I was also doubting RRQ this season because like no Skylar. I think Skylar has had a massive impact, and I think we did see that in SPS. We did see how not having Skylar impacted the team very negatively. It looked like they were just miscoordinating a lot of the fights. They were miscommunicating a lot of times as well. But I will have to say, I'm sorry, Keskute. I will never doubt you again. I think this guy, you give him any lineup, he's so good. The drafts have been, I think, for me, on top of RQ's amazing performance, the draft has been amazing. Like, the draft has literally won them games, especially against Onic. Yeah. I feel Adi got outclassed there in the draft, both games.
It was a 2v1 though.
It was a 2v1, that's true. Adi is the sole coach. But man, my GOAT, Keskute, I can't believe a team let go of you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, fun fact. Right as we threw to the host for the winner's interview, right? Mirko just went, man, why did we let him go?
Dude, every time, even last season when RQ was up against PTR, and he pulled off the Uranus pick, and I was like, dude, this piece of no. Yeah. But what do you think, Arashi? It's your team. You probably expected them not to be as good as this for their first week, right? They had the tough opponent in Onic, but they won 2-0 at that.
I thought it was possible. I felt that we talked about this somewhere else. Getting a weird sense of deja vu right now.
Yeah, I think it's like those convos, record, Discord maybe, convos off the record.
Yeah, because I remember Mirko asking as well, like, what do you think, man? I mean, things are quite different now. No Skylar. So we have combos like that all the time, right? I felt like they're gonna dip, but I felt like it was possible. Again, due to, by all means, I always say it's possible for a lot of things, right? To be fair, and a lot of times it doesn't really like come true. Just full disclaimer there. But I thought with the factor of Cascade, with the fact that they had time to prepare, with the fact that teams might be experimenting, and of course Cascade again, on that point of the draft, I call him the trickster all the time, right? Because it's just so crafty in the draft. You kind of don't know what he's up to, then he comes up with something crazy. With all those factors, it's possible for them to win, right? There's a bit of copium there too, but I thought it was possible. But still, I predicted 2-1, and it was 2-0, so I was like very surprised. First of all, with like the performance of Toy, especially against a team like Onic, not prime, not like a full force Onic. Full disclosure. If you're in Toy's position, going up against a team like Onic is gonna be, in theory, a lot more difficult.
Right.
Because it's a team that's a bit more seasoned. They've played against different people, so they will be able to exploit more mistakes, more unpreparedness. I thought it was gonna happen against Onic. So I thought the idea for RRQ would be like, okay, make sure that Toy can play safe, can kind of do his own thing, can be relatively secure, and then let the rest of the guys who are a bit more seasoned to actually make more of the risky maneuvers. It turns out it's almost the exact opposite. Toy was the guy doing crazy stuff. I'm like, what? How? In the midst of that game, especially the Irrital moment, right? Oh, dude, we went crazy there.
Yeah.
The assassin Irrital. Dude, that came out of nowhere. So we've seen new names come in strong, and then kind of dip afterwards, right? So we have to wait for the consistency to show itself. But on top of that, I believe the shot caller now is Rins, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a mix of Rins and EDOC, but I think it's the duo, the NDL,
the mid row.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great change, because there's a lot of moments in previously with the previous lineup where we saw Rins kind of do something crazy, but alone, not with the team, So I feel like now with the fact that he is, I don't know if he's the main shot caller, but the fact that he is one of the shot callers, it feels like now the team has that level of like, oh, what are they gonna do? That kind of like unpredictability, which is great. But I also said on desk that they gotta control it too, because at the same time, Rins, that unpredictability is great when you're ahead, when you have the tools necessary. But there are a lot of games where the name of the game is to avoid mistakes and just like make sure that your opponent doesn't really get tempo. So in those kind of games, that aspect of Rins can kind of backfire as well. So I fully expect some teams to kind of use that approach, right? Make sure they have the aggressive composition, and then pressure RRQ and see how they react under that pressure. That synergy between EDOC and Rins, we talked about it multiple times before. But now we also theorized on desk that EDOC might be shot calling engages and all that, but the big picture call-outs, like whether to split push, whether to flank around, to keep fighting or pull back, that seems to be Rins. And of course the Hazel coming in, the gym guy. In my head is the gym guy, because in Malaysia,
we were
didn't
always
know.
working out with Hazel.
He's always there.
Yeah.
Almost every day.
It's him and King Kong who are always there.
Yeah,
every time.
Hey, you gotta respect the grind.
You gotta respect the hustle.
Yeah,
he wasn't playing, so he could have.
Yeah.
I was surprised that King Kong was. He's like, yo, didn't you make it to the finals? Like, what are you doing? Aren't you practicing? He's like, nah, dude.
He's in there. Like,
yeah. He's in there
coaching the Lars.
Shirtless, by the way, the entire time. It's a public gym. Shout out to King Kong. Yeah.
Kelra too. They're all just shirtless.
Onic PH. Go to the gym. That's where the shirts go off, bro. Like the shirts come off right as they enter the gym.
That's crazy.
I think after they won, I was joking to Mirko, like, you know why he's so good? He's been hitting the gym, bro.
Which is true.
Healthy body, healthy mind.
Exactly.
I actually think so. Healthy body, healthy mind.
Exactly.
Look at Chorizo, XBT, by the way.
Wow.
He's amazing. Anyways, yeah, that's good. So is it?
I think it's cool. Again, there's some things that I think. Some mistakes were there, definitely. Yeah. And I feel like mainly it can be attributed to lack of experience. As in, like, he's up against... he's probably been scrimming, but there's some moments where not all teams would, like, capitalize.
Yeah.
But a really good team won't let it go unpunished. Mm-hmm. Moments like that is, I think, where Hazel sometimes gets caught for the most part. But overall, I feel like the aggressiveness, the creativity... especially with that Hanzo, dude. Like, man, that hero is it's absolutely obnoxious, by the way. I'm a mage player, by the way, so which is why once the game ended, the match ended, I immediately mentioned to Mirko, like, dude, you gotta feel for Sans, man. Like, being a Farsa against a Hanzo, that shit's fucked up, dude. Honestly, I have no words about that. So I think there's a bit of a... That's where, again, the conversation of, like, Adi's draft comes into play as well. That's about where I'm at.
Mm-hmm. You know, actually, this is a funny thing that I just realized while you were talking. RRQ kind of seems like... I mean, if you guys watch football, RRQ and PSG are somewhat alike. They lose their star player, PSG Mbappe, Skylar for RRQ.
Yeah, I was about to go there.
Without their star player actually doing better. And they also have, like, a new manager for PSG, Luis Enrique and Cascute. Is like those two are like the shining stars for both PSG and RRQ right now. But what do you think, Gonie, of about?
Yeah, I mean, such a young team, but surprisingly so good. Well, at least for week one, right?
Yep.
Week one, I mean, Edok Rins still a young. We got a rookie here and there, Toy. But this is where I feel like the newcomers, the rookies, that they can bring something to the league.
Improve.
Yeah, that is surprises, right? Against the Royal Derby, of course, like against Onic, a well-established team still. Their main pillars, Keyboy, Sans, and Kyrie, still there. But Toy stepped up, and I guess that is where... Right, RQ's management, credit to them. I think they made the right decision. Well, at least for now. Again, let's see. Hope for the best. But yeah, I mean, Cascute, brilliant still.
XBTR
just for season. But yeah, I mean,
it's more like waves at your face, you know. XBTR.
But yeah, again, RRQ. Arashi is doing confident. Of course, you guys are too. You guys, you have a reason to. You have a reason to, Arashi.
Yeah, Diron as well, by the way.
Yes, I was about to say.
You know, we can't understate how well Diron was doing too.
The entire team, I think, just did really well. Diron, this guy, since Rebellion days, he's always been the standout for me in the Rebellion days. But Edok, I think this guy has... I felt from like even his debut. I remember telling Arashi and telling a lot of people this, but for me, the guy with the most potential in RRQ, aside from obviously Skylar back in the previous season, is Edok. Edok has the highest potential out of all of them, I think, because like the way he plays, it's so smart. And I think even Beloyski mentioned this in an interview. It feels like when he's up against Edok, he's up against a younger version of himself. That's what Beloyski said in one of the interviews when they won or when they lost against RRQ. I forgot, but it's safe to say Edok has kind of risen again. He's improved again. He is full of potential still, very young player. And yeah, I think this RRQ lineup now looks very promising. That earlier, before week one, it looked very shaky. Everybody was still thinking, okay, probably mid-table. They might do it. They might do it.
Wow, they might have pulled a TL?
Pull a TL. I don't think they can pull a TL anymore. But technically, yeah, this team of rookies, almost everyone. Toy is the only rookie now. Let's talk about BTR, though. Let's talk about them. Personally, I'm disappointed with their match against DEWA.
Wow.
I mean, I think it's not even a hot... Like, against Alrer Ego, it was clean. I loved VTR against Alrer Ego. Alrer Ego are not a bad team now. They beat Onic, right? So you can't even say, you just beat the 8th place team anymore. The 9th place team is Onic. So this season is shaping up to be a very interesting one. I hope it continues. I hope NAVI continues to shock as well.
Yeah.
But I hope BTR stops shocking people.
Shocking you.
Shocking me. To be fair, shocking you too. Did you expect DEWA to beat VTR?
No.
No, I don't think any of you, even you. I know you guys meme a lot about, me supporting VTR, but I don't think even you expected them to lose to DEWA. BTR against DEWA, the drafts in game 2 and game 3, I think they initially won game 1, but then it looked like they underestimated them, really. Picking up the Fanny. Yeah. After countering the Fanny with Badang, they knew what to counter the Fanny with, and then they were like, no, they're not going to do it. And what is this garbage? Probably. Because it felt like, wow, you're really just going to give the Badang over with a Fanny? It's very hard, almost impossible to play a Fanny against a Badang. We saw that both times. And then in game 3, I believe it was a Sicilian Granger, having that late game but not being so safe. Yeah. That's so weird for me because Bigetron have always been a team that wants to fight, that wants to be aggressive. So to see them play super safe even when they hit their item power spikes on the Sicilian Granger, I was like, this is weird. And then obviously there's the case of Annabelle. Annabelle, first week, not performing. most people are saying, or already hating on him, saying like, oh yeah, you know, he was good in EVOS, but when you buy the player, the skill comes differently. It's a DLC. Like, you have to pay extra for the DLC of skill. No, I think that is the only criticism that I won't take for BTR. Anavel underperforming. Is Anavel shit? Is Anavel garbage? No.
Yeah.
When it's, listen, so many times we've seen players join a new team, and it's not an instant process for them to adapt to the team. Knowing how Anavel plays, knowing how he is very used to just single-handedly playing for the team, like carrying the team a lot of times, it's not a BTR kind of play style, right? You saw how active Super Ken is. I mean, he's obviously, you know, gone down as well, dipped in performance, but at his peak, he never, at BTR's peak, season 13, season 14 even, Super Ken was never solo carrying. And I think Anavel is still thinking about the team, thinking, oh, I gotta solo carry this team. I gotta just look for farm and then wait for my power spike and then carry. He doesn't want to go in first. He doesn't want to set up for the team. I think, again, it's because of the playstyle that is very different from EVOS and from BTR. Now is the time for them to, again, synergize, look for the proper synergy and the proper playstyle to play together. Because in Snapdragon, they didn't even play together. So it's the same kind of problem, I think, for BTR with Anavel as it is with Onic. Synergy issues with one player coming in, stepping in. And I think for BTR, it'll be improvements that will come after this. I think it's a good reality check. To get the reality check early is great. Because BTR, for the longest time, the reality check has always come in very late. They get too complacent. They win the regular season. They're a top team. And then they're like, you know.
Too late sometimes.
Yeah, too late. Very late.
But yeah, I think with Bigetron, it's such a shame that Anavel did not play with the team in Snapdragon, because
I agree.
I think that is where the good testing ground.
Yes.
It's a good, like, to have a feel with the team, to have a feel in game and also out. So that's I think that's an L for that department.
Yeah.
So they got a lot of ground to cover now. Week 1 wasn't their best. Potentially, I think they're good. Will they go to MSC? That's the question. Is this enough? I need to see more. I need to see more. I think I don't think this team has enough firepower to be in the grand finals.
Oh, you're gonna call it from now, all right?
I think so. Right? EXP, yeah.
But are we gonna address the elephant in the room though, with the retribution?
Yeah, the retribution. He lost all the retributions to Ray. 6 out of 6.
I was thinking, like, is it because Anavel is really bad with the calculations? Is it because Ray is a god with the calculations? Or is it the fact that if I recall correctly, a lot of times Bigetron, the way they're able to get the neutral objective dominance is actually by the setup advantage. And on top of the setup advantage, they're really good at using their resources to kind of block the opposing team's jungler, either by sending the EXP lane to zone, sending Luke to one moment that lives rent-free in my mind is where he uses a Ruby and I'm offended the jungler away from the neutral objective. So there's always creative stuff like that, I think, that Bigetron always does. So now, I don't know. I don't know if they've kind of like lost their touch with that, or they haven't synergized with Anavel for that, because, you know, Anavel, I don't think relies on moments like that, you know, and that could be a factor, right, in the calculations. Like maybe his previous team is more used to bursting it down. There's minute stuff like that can kind of turn things around. Yeah. But honestly, for Bigetron, it just feels like the drafts, I feel like some particular picks are very questionable. I do agree. I didn't watch it that closely, to be fair. It was my day off. And I was sick. I was very sick, actually. So
diarrhea, in case you want to know.
throughout day 2 in MPL Arena, I was in the bathroom like multiple times.
You were shitting.
That's crazy. That's a crazy.
Like what, 8 times?
Wow, Arashi.
Yeah, so I don't watch it all that closely. Sorry for exposing myself, Ronnie. I can see you're bothered.
No.
But I didn't watch as closely, but I remember some moments watching the drafts at least, right? Because that's where I usually have to talk a lot as an analyst. Really? Like, why? And just not seeing the vision.
I think they're being cocky a little, right? I think they're being a little too, like, arrogant. I think we have seen a lot of cocky drafts that actually work, right? Because they executed better. But I think for Bigetron, I think they need, you mentioned reality check. I think, week 2, they need to come in a little bit humble.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe then I can say, okay, this team has that firepower.
What about the rest of the roster, though? What do you think about because we talked about the drafts already, but what do you think about their individual performances? Because I felt like overall there's still great moments, but maybe it's a bit similar to Onic. It just felt like the game plan was off.
Yeah, I agree.
Like individually, laning, rotations, brawls, when to use their skills. There are moments that are good from Bigetron. It just felt like, let's say, okay, they were able to actually get a great skirmish. And then what?
Yeah.
It felt like what comes after was the one that makes you go like, wait, what are you guys doing? Like, what's the idea here?
I agree. Like the translation of winning the fight to what are they going to do, what objectives, what to capitalize on was definitely not as good. Yeah. And I think for BTR, also, it feels a bit one-dimensional. Like if Luke doesn't get the initiator picks, it's weird.
That's fair, yeah.
It almost looks like, even though we have Light, by the way, right? The main initiator isn't Light. The main initiator for the most part is always Luke, and when it's not Luke, they lose a lot of firepower. That's why Luke has always been just playing the badang. I think one glue pick, Gluke, where again he was also the guy flickering forward looking for these initiations, while Light on the Gatot Kacha was following up.
Yeah.
So if they continue to just rely on Luke being the main initiator, I think in week 2, especially against EVOS, that could be exploited against XBTR Key. And Key probably knows how they like to play too, right? Like he's been part of that team.
Is that his official name, like
XBTR Key? So for me, for BTR, I think a lot of things have to be worked on. I think also the gameplay now, it almost feels like RRQ Season 11, but
Season 11?
Yeah, with Irad and Brusco.
Wow.
Skylar Esports. It almost seems like right now it is Eman Esports. It feels like, Skylar with a Natan, this is Eman with a Granger. If Eman gets Granger, we're like, all right, whatever.
Eman's crazy though.
Yeah, we'll rely on Eman, which is great when you can do it. But a lot of the other games where the matchup is a bit more, even. It's not him on a Granger, it's him on a Harith, and it's him on an Irithel where you can get CC'd, you can get chased, and you can't really have that crazy solo carry power. They lose out a lot of power. And again, I think I agree with you. A bit arrogant a couple of times. I think the game with Irithel, when Eman picked up the Irithel, game 2 against DEWA United, he went sprint, not purify, against that full CC comp. Suyo, Badang, forgot what other CC they had, but Hylos, I think. That's so much CC, and we saw Eman and like getting picked off, I think 2-3 times more than he should have, more than a normal Eman performance. And I think it's due to just not having the purify and being that confident in like sprinting out of the way. But against a Badang, I think respect is very, very necessary. So yeah, I think they need to be respectful, they need to be humble in the next one, in the next performance that they have, especially up against EVOS.
That's also one thing that we kind of are at odds about, because sometimes I do feel like the sprint would have a bit more value, in a sense that, because this ties into like what we were talking about Hazel, right? There was some moment where he was doing a bit of a trade, he dashes out, and then the Hylos just goes, pathway, and a dash won't save you there. You need something that lasts a bit longer, a shorter cooldown, because you're going to be targeted a lot more. I do feel like there's some situations where the sprint is necessary. So I feel like that's not necessarily a hard, like a critical mistake. But at the same time, if you're going to rely on the sprint, right, instead of going for a purify or a flicker, that also ties into whether or not your team can help you out with it, right? So I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel like, again, if you want to use the sprint for some of the issues, some of the dangers, then the ones that can't be dealt with a sprint, your team needs to be on board to help you with. It's the way I see it. So I don't see it as like a critical mistake to use the sprint, but I do feel like that was a bit risky as well.
This is why you like to use sprint on your Zushin, right?
Yeah, I mean,
there you go.
Because going back to me here.
You really like the sprint.
Because I feel like the way I use my flickers, I don't use it too much. There's some moments where I really feel like I need to gap close as far. Whereas with Shushin, it's about sticking to the guy, right? So I prefer like the sprint in that situation because I have a flicker. So tying back to my initial point, because I have a free flicker to deal with other stuff, usually I would run with a sprint or even a vengeance sometimes. If I do feel like the issue isn't the repositioning, it's the burst damage. It's if there's like what kind of hero? A hero that can just nuke you with a targeted spell.
Eudora.
let's say Eudora, I would go Vengeance because I don't need like the flicker or the sprint, So I feel like again that there are situations where that would make sense. That's my opinion. It's situational, and your team needs to be on board with the planning for that as well.
With that, let's move on to like DEWA United, right?
DEWA United.
DEWA United. Ray. DU. Worst jungler of season.
Dang.
What was it? Season 13? Season 13.
Yeah.
I remember calling him the worst jungler in season 13 because I do believe in the utility meta he was the worst jungler, right? I think his retries were very questionable at the time on the utility junglers. But on the assassins, he's always been a good player. Now, Alpha is not really an assassin.
Right.
So he's definitely improved on that front. But also, I think, again, for DEWA, Mueza's really good, dude. I've been saying it to you guys.
Agreed.
Mueza, the Mathilda, if you guys don't know, the roamer for DEWA United, he is a good player, and he is very easily forgotten in a team that was used to be full of old guard stars, especially with now still Sorizo, Ray having these names, and Ray having that performance. We're going to forget about Mueza a lot this season, but trust me, Mueza I think opened up so many opportunities as well for the team. But we got to talk about Ray and his improvement on retry, because holy moly, Ray might have the best retry now. No, it's just based on one game, but like
exactly,
dude,
what
you're out retrying a Suyo 6 out of 6 times, and against a team like BTR, who again in neutral objectives have tried. They tried so many times to like flicker on the Alpha. I believe the Sicilian was also picked for the Sanguine Claws to CC the Alpha a couple of times. This is a good pick against the Alpha. But looking at the replay again, I was an analyst that day, so I was able to really like look at what he did in these team fights. The Spear of Alpha timing. Alpha is not really a difficult hero, but his timing is just impeccable. Really, his timing is amazing. 6 out of 6 times he beat Annabelle in the retry department, and it's not just because of the retribution. I want to say he's the best at neutral objectives.
Whoa.
Just based on that one match. Again, it could change. Maybe when he's not on the Alpha, he doesn't find it as comfortable. But I think he'll do better on a Suyo if he does this on an Alpha. You know what I mean?
Right.
And even on a Joy. I think you'll do better with a Joy here in this department too. You don't have the CC, but you have the burst to help you with the retry, and I think he utilized that so much. And maybe it was just a case of like, he might be on point, he might be flow state on that day. I think DEWA United, if Ray continues to perform like that, and if maybe...
That's the thing.
Maybe keeps on also helping him, Mueza helping him, I think this team might have the most neutral objectives by the end of the season. I'm not even joking, because maybe is such a good macro gold lane player. On the Moskov, he was on point. Like we've seen so many rookies.
Yeah.
I think it was Toy as well, SPS. They just miss out the SODs. It's very hard. It's easier said than done to hit the SODs from afar. But for maybe he's so composed. I rarely see a gold lane who is this composed in their debut against a big team too, against BTR, against a team that a lot of people think are top 3 right this season. Maybe played a really good game, constantly putting pressure on the side so that BTR would move, but he never risked it. He always knew when to just chill, farm, then back off, play for the SODs. And mainly that SOD accuracy is bullshit.
Yeah.
So many times BTR were disengaging and he catches them. It's like, damn, maybe. Yeah, the new recruits for DEWA are amazing, but the old player who is now a coach, Watt, I didn't think he would be an amazing coach. I thought he would take time to be, to be good. I thought in their first performance it would be kind of whack, and I think in game 1 it was kind of whack. He picked Fanny, the Badan was picked up, and then he was like, all right, fuck, shit, we might have lost on in this game. Game 2, the recovery was great. The way to counter the BTR picking up Fanny, he's like, yeah, I will do the same thing. Why not? And then after the game, what's impressive is I saw Watt. After the game, they won. He wasn't celebrating. He wasn't taking interviews. He was on his iPad, just rewatching the game, VOD reviewing his own game, just looking at the game like this. He's locked in. So, hey, props to Watt, props to DEWA for finding this solution. No wonder they decided to not get an assistant coach or an analyst, because I think they fully trust in Watt, and I think Watt is very dedicated right now.
Do you think he's in charge of drafting as well? Or do you think there's a bit of a mix?
That's why. I think it's a mix of him and Mueza.
Right.
From the drafts, I also paid attention to the mouths, how they were moving.
The yapping.
Watt and Mueza were the most vocal in the drafts. It looked like when they were drafting, both of them were constantly yapping. So, yeah, Mueza brings so much to the team.
Yeah,
This guy's really good.
Because for all pro players, because I had weird segue, but I had experience as a manager myself, right? And I was working with our coach was an ex-pro player, so they were usually really good at identifying gameplay mistakes retrospectively. Because you would do that as a high-level player. You would play, and then like if you lose, you'd be like, man, how do we lose? Because you want to win, right? So I feel like that's something. Yeah, it really feels like. That's something that pro players, especially experienced pro players, would excel at, because you've seen and done the reviews so often that at this point, if he's watching a VOD review, most definitely any kind of like misplay, any kind of moments, he would find it easy to identify. I would say. So I think it's a novel idea, a pro player turning into a coach. I do think that not all pro players have the affinity for it. Some don't have the patience. Some don't have the what do you call it?
The time.
Communication skills.
The communication skills, absolutely.
Pro players are not good at communicating.
And some just don't notice as much of the finer details, right? You need an eye for detail for a lot of that stuff. And I feel like the fact that Watt is also a gold laner really lends itself to that, because the gold lane, I think you can testify to this, is a lane with a lot of particular factors, fine details, the last hits, right? The distance management. So him being in that role, being so experienced in that role, and actually, did he play any other roles before that?
He was.
But he played the gold lane. But
he played mages in the gold lane though.
Hyper, I believe, no? Season 1, but I'm not too sure about that. But yeah, in the gold lane, he played mages,
in Season 7
Farsight,
and all that.
Alice, Bane.
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like the distance management and all that, the eyeing for windows of opportunity, I feel like he has a lot of advantage going for him due to all that experience. So I think it's a great move, it's a great call. But again, we have to see and wait and see, right? For Ray though, I think it's great, but again, it's only one game.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can see more of it. On the topic of whether or not it's like, is it just on the alpha and all that? Will he do better on the Suyo? It depends. When you said that, I was thinking that some players will do better with like the alpha, in a sense that you have your own built-in crowd control for your opposing jungler, and you also have the comfort of knowing that when you go in there, you're not going to be blown up. You're tanky enough, and the spirit of alpha is going to give you enough regen that you won't at least immediately blow up.
Yeah.
And some players, I would say, really benefit off that extra guarantee. Because me myself, whenever I'm playing, that's why I play mages, right? Whenever I'm playing like an assassin or things like that, it's the overthinking of like, oh, am I gonna survive this? Right? Am I gonna get stunned here and get blown up immediately? That kind of limits like my aggressiveness. So that's a long-winded approach, but basically what I'm saying is we have to see some more. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about
I think fantastic performance by Ray, right? I think from the early game he was reliable. He was good in farming, looking for pickoffs, and also, of course, controlling the pit. But I think the X factor that game was just maybe. I think his like positioning, right?
Yeah.
The timing of his showings, ladies and gentlemen, is, I feel like, underappreciated, right? I think he knows when to show himself, because you know what? I think the air is cool here. Let me just show myself, and then just knows when to dip.
Yep.
SOD on point
Very
as
good
well.
decision-making.
That X factor right there, it made the opponent Bigetron overthink.
Yep.
I think it made them like, okay, we got a foreign lane that we need to take care of, but then we need to make sure we get the Lord.
Yeah.
And then SOD comes in, dropping the bomb. Not sure kills perhaps doesn't really translate to his stat, but yeah, that made BTR overthink.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I think that won them the game. I feel like, of course, with spectacular individual performances.
The reason I say also like that Ray's retribution might be the best is also because we didn't just get to see him on Alpha. We saw him on Suyo and then Fanny. And even in game 1, while he was being pressured on the Fanny, he was clean with the cables and he was winning the retry battles on his purple. He didn't get to participate in neutral objectives, unfortunately, because it's a Fanny against a Badang, against a Suyo. But winning the retries on purple, staying alive constantly, they had a better performance on Fanny than NFL.
Right.
Game 2, Suyo, outplays. So many outplays. He was stealing the show the entire match, I think. Even on the Fanny in game 1 against the Badang. He was caught once, I think.
Yep.
So yeah, that's for me. That's DEWA for me. Should we move on to Navi? So you know what? Let's move on to Alrer Ego first, right? Let's move on to Alrer Ego. Let's talk about Alrer Ego. Alrer Ego are a weird one for sure. The match against BTR, I feel like they were just completely outclassed. I don't know if that was BTR being like in form. Was that in form BTR with no, arrogant? They weren't. They were still respectful. It was the first match. Was it a fluke? That's a good question too, because Bigetron, now that they got beat by DEWA, looks kind of shaky, and Alrer Ego beating Onic, they look really good. I don't know what it is with Alrer Ego. It almost seems like this is the problem for SPS qualifiers too. They would do really well against certain teams, strong teams, like even Aurora. They would do really well against Aurora, but then against RRQ they would lose. Against another top team they would win in SPS, and then they would lose again to another Indonesian team. Very inconsistent right now. Zephyr, I think, is doing a good job. I think the drafts have been amazing. So I don't think I'm going to blame the drafts. I think Alrer Ego's drafts have been great. What I don't think has been great is Gebe. I said this when they were up against BTR, and that was also Gebe, their jungler, who was playing against BTR. Right as Rin walks in, starts playing with the team, the team does amazing. They need that aggressiveness. Like, it doesn't matter that the roster has changed so much from the season 7, season 8 roster, when Alrer Ego's whole identity was we fight, we go in, we're aggressive. I think it's just built in the team right now. Like, it's just the core principle of the team. It sometimes looks very dumb sometimes, especially in game 2. I was triggered when Rin picked the Hanzo. They were ahead by
with the Loi.
They were so ahead, but they kept on gambling with the fights for no reason. I hope Zephyr fixes that. I hope, because even if Alrer Ego win that way, they should not lose a lead like that. When you have an advantage in a fucking fist fight, when you have a gun, you use the gun. You don't throw the gun and say let's do it. Roll. Just win it, bro. It's a competition. So yeah, that is what I think Alrer Ego should fix. Rin, amazing player, great potential. Cloudy, hello. Heis.
Ooh, Heis.
The GOAT. Gonie's GOAT.
GG.
In scrims, this is from Aldo. Aldo told me this because I was like, "What the fuck? Why do you keep using Heis? Like, he just never performs on stage." And he's like, "Dude, you have to see how good he is in scrims. You have to understand."
He should show us.
I don't think he can. but
if he's so confident about it,
apparently, yeah, that's true.
You show us a clip.
Well, I guess he wants Heis to just show us on stage.
Okay, and then wait.
I think against Onic we saw that. Like when he was on Hereth, holy shit, was this guy crazy on the Hereth? Like, this is already his signature pick. We know him for the Hereth, but against BTR it looked weird. Like he was doubting himself. It was back to like, oh fuck, I'm on stage. Shit, I can't do that. I can't be Kelra on stage. I can only be Kelra on scrims. But in that game against Onic, he was like, nah, man. Yeah. I am Heis. I am Gonie's GOAT.
I am bitch made.
and even Nino did really well. Dreams, Hijume, Fire Mist, very good stuff. Very good stuff. Yeah, everybody was doing so well. The drafts were great. Zephyr, amazing Fire Mist pick. That Fire Mist pick fucked Onic. Like legit. He just bent Onic over and smashed him with Fire Mist there.
I mean, the response from Onic wasn't that good as well.
Right? Like, Onic just got gapped there by the Fire Mist.
Like, okay, Fire Mist, and then Cho.
And then, and you see the Fire Mist, and then he picked the Cho. Props to Onic for also technically like fumbling that. But yeah, so what do you guys think about Alrer Ego right now?
So the coach, he's a Dota guy, right? Yeah. He was a Dota guy.
You can't say that. I'm joking. You can say that. He was a Dota coach.
I believe like Adi.
Adi, Cascute, all of them Dota coaches.
So I think very highly.
Dota players, sorry. Now they're coaches, but they weren't. Yeah.
So I think very highly of like Dota players, coaches. Because my whole MOBA background was Dota, by the way. Until this day, me and KB, we had this convo once where we were talking about the fact that KB was telling me that we were discussing the benefits, the values of like seeing things with a Dota perspective, and he told me till this day, which was this could have happened maybe like a year ago, or half a year ago. So, but he told me till this day, half a year ago, that when he has a theory, like a principle, let's say for instance, like Poke beats Team Fight or something, you know, a theory, a principle, a formula, right? He enjoys going to Dota and seeing how it plays out there, because the scale is bigger, right? The map is bigger.
Right.
So whatever small details you see in Mobile Legends, in other MOBAs, in Dota, it gets the spotlight is shown on it like way more. That's why the game takes longer. The map is bigger, the HP bars are larger, you know, the items are stronger.
It's much more complex.
Everything is just extra in Dota. So I really enjoy Dota personally myself. But can I say that?
Yeah, you can.
Shit. Okay. So I've always thought highly whenever people say like, "Oh, new coach is coming in, ex Dota coach or Dota player." I'm like, okay. Immediately, there's some respect there for me. I think there's always potential with how much they're used to counting and planning and having the awareness. Because in Dota, it's a whole another level, man. I know you guys don't play Dota.
I can't. It's too hard, man.
Too
I
complex,
can't stay
bro.
awake playing that Dota.
No, and I don't blame you.
Yeah.
When I was first learning it, it took way too long. And I get why it's just not.
What's your MMR?
In Dota? I haven't played right. I played back when it was still like, you know, I played from Dota 1 days before Dota 2.
Damn. Okay.
And I played a bit of Dota 2 with friends.
He's
Just for
old.
fun.
He's old.
Old I is.
Same age, by the way.
But yeah, so I felt like drafting wise, it makes sense.
Yeah.
The way Sepher was drafting, it seems like he has the right ideas, right? But in a sense, I think you were mentioning that there were some moments where it seems like the team is taking too many weird risks.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was because of a Dota influence as well. Because in Dota, if you didn't know, sometimes the games just get more. The games are a lot more chaotic. So it's normal to have a lead and then have it like go back and forth. In Dota, there's very rarely do you see a game. I won't say rarely, but there's plenty of games that don't go cleanly. Like the way we see in Mobile Legends, where it's like, okay, maintain a gold advantage, get to 8K, get to 10K, and then it's a guarantee win as long as you don't make a mistake, and they don't make a mistake. In Dota, there's a lot more like risky plays, a lot more 50-50 kind of approaches. So I wonder if that's like something that influences how Alrer Ego is playing right now. It just came to mind as you mentioned how they were like, oh, they were so ahead, and then they took a weird gamble technically, because yeah, that's pretty common over in Dota, IMOS, you know. Team-wise though, I felt like we didn't really see again a lot of big plays that are like 5-man coordinated.
Yeah.
In my opinion. By all means, I didn't watch the game that closely, right? Some of these, some of the Alrer Ego games. But I feel like a lot of their moments are still very individual based.
Yep.
So that's just a surface opinion I have of Alrer Ego right now.
Interesting. Alrer Ego. Yeah, I mean, to put it simply, I think what they did with the Luoyi and Hanzo, it's just they want to win it with style. Mirko, Arashi, they want to win it. They want to add salt to the wound, but then they got them fisted.
They got punished.
They got punished. From that's the thing. That's the thing. You can't be okay. You want style points, but then again, you need to think of the risk. And of course, CW was there to clear, but they won the series nonetheless. But yeah, I mean, they that moment they want it. Well, they want to win it with style. I think. Do I think Alrer Ego will improve? Yes and no.
Ooh.
I think they are just going to, improve slowly but surely. But yeah, I think they will not be top 3.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to TLID then, right? Because I think TLID also was very arrogant at the start, picking Selena 3 games in a row with it having zero impact. Like honestly, even in the game that they won when they equalized in their first match against EVOS, the Selena did nothing. Like it's such a shit Selena pick. I very rarely say something is super shit, but that was super shit. You have a player like Yehezkiel who's so good. He's a really good player.
Yeah.
and it doesn't work the first 2 times. It's like, all right, you know what? Maybe it's just not his hero. Like, you don't need to be good at everything, right? You don't need to try to match Super Friends on the Selena. That's not how you win. Like, just play what you are best at. And I think in their second match, they also did underestimate. Like, I don't know, TLID are underestimating their opponents a lot now.
Yeah.
EVOS, they underestimated them for sure. Like, the 3 Selena picks, that for sure is experimenting. Like, I even though we disagree on a lot of times, like if teams are experimenting, that one, I gotta say, it was pure experiment. It looked fucking horrible. It looked like a scrim.
I saw us dropping like F-bombs and shit.
It looked
So
fucking scrimmy.
Usually when there's the 3 of us, it's like a work environment, you know. So it's just really throwing me off whenever you go like, it's fucking. I'm like,
It looked like a fucking scrim.
Reflexively.
Right? Against NAVI, dude, they were underestimating NAVI, and then finally game 3, they were like, oh shit, like NAVI are good.
Time to lock in.
Time to lock in.
Yeah.
Aaron, pick up that Moskov. You know, aside from them underestimating their opponents with the Selena and then the Lucas pick, their players, mainly Aaron. He's either Aaron Shaky or Aaron Shiki the Untouchable. Like, he's either godly or what the fuck? He's like the new Watt, the modern day Watt. Because in that game against Navi, third game too, he was doing shit like, he was doing some very questionable stuff.
It wasn't the cleanest Moskov game.
It was not the cleanest Moskov. And then as we get to mid to late, it was the cleanest Moskov. He was just outplaying everybody, throwing SODs, jumping here, boom, bang, bada bing, crazy.
So you're saying in the laning phase in skirmishes, he wasn't all that good.
But
then in the big team fights, he is.
He scales with time. His decision-making scales in the game.
So he's a late game player.
Yeah, his mechanics and his decision-making scales. It's so weird. But
because I was wondering if it's a different in circumstances, like the kind of fights, or is it a difference because he has the items to actually make the plays happen?
Yeah.
Because again, I didn't watch that particular game that closely.
I think it's both. It's weird for Aaron, but that's what makes him good. That's what makes him
Aaron Shiki.
Hated by a lot of people, but that's what makes him Aaron Shiki. Fabian, a lot of people. We had a few sessions in rehearsals just doing American accents, and maybe it stuck. But
Dan South.
Other than that, I think it's just them underestimating their opponents with the drafts. It's just them being arrogant. Maybe experimenting in the first week.
Yeah.
But also the meta has shifted for Witty. I don't think Witty is as comfortable in this meta. Like, because you usually see him on the Khalid, the Gatot. I still think that those work, but then you miss out on, like, for some reason he doesn't want to go Mathilda. That's what was like. That was his favorite pick,
match.
Top global. They always ban Mathilda. Their first pick, and they would ban Mathilda. I don't know if it's because Witty is not comfortable on the pick anymore, if the team's not comfortable with Mathilda, or if they just have other priorities. I still don't know. Obviously, it's just week 1, so we'll see if that changes. Maybe they are saving the Mathilda for later. But heroes that I would think Witty would do well on, he hasn't been picking up. Like, even the Chong.
I think Hylos as well. I think he would. Yeah. You know, I think he would like. I think Hylos is not a tough hero to pull off, and I think Witty with his brain, his macro stuff,
brain gums.
Wisdom with the wise, I think he would do well, but I believe he has.
He's been even Nagatot, he went 2-7 against EVOS. Like,
wow.
I don't know if it's just the team style that is making Witty sacrifice for the team, or if he is feeling not that comfortable on these picks.
Yeah, a lot of the bad moments for Team Liquid in week 1 is really just underestimating your opponent. Yeah. I can agree with that. Yeah, I feel like they're just not really certain what kind of approach they want to use now. Because I feel like, it's just a feeling, by the way, but like I feel like Team Liquid is a team that kind of operates together. They've always been a team that's very solid, right? Yeah. I mean, like they're united in that sense. We've never really critiqued. Team Liquid is a team that has a lot of miscommunications and all that. I don't think that's I think we hear a lot about Team Liquid, so. I feel like partially it's just them trying to figure out, okay, like you mentioned, like, do we want to sacrifice Witty? Do we want to put the pressure on Aaron? Or do we want to put everything on Aran? And again, it's only week 1. Yep. And we know that from last season, Team Liquid ID are one of those teams that have a lot of different tools. That's part of what allowed them to actually win in the grand finals against RRQ. The fact that okay, you want to shut down the gold lane, and the roam pick as the top global one, Mathilda. You shut down the roamer, right? They ban the troll, they ban the Khalid. Then the EXP lane or Ron can pop off and do crazy stuff. Not to mention the jungler and the mid lane. Everyone has their own like power style technically. So I feel like this is just them trying to figure out more than anything, not just the approach, but what combination of approaches can actually like lend itself to their to their full potential. As in like, okay, we know that we can rely on the top side of the map, let's say, the mid lane, the jungle, the EXP, but if we want to do EXP and gold lane focus, can we do that? If we want to do like mid lane and gold lane focus, or EXP and jungle focus, can we do that? It feels like they're trying out stuff like that, but again, that's something I'm kind of just picking up. It's a bit of just a feel. I can't really point out to exact moments that kind of like make me feel that way.
Okay,
That's wild.
what about you, Gonie? Liquid.
Yeah, I think they can still be a contender. I don't think week one really reflects their whole thing. Of course, I think they are somewhat underestimating their opponents, but it's okay. It's week one. We got a lot of weeks to go. But okay. Other than that, I think they're still like one of the teams that might go to MSC.
Is there?
I think so.
So they're still a top team for you.
Yeah, I think
All
they
right.
might go to MSC.
Okay, so I think we can move on to like the last two teams here, and we can just like give our very short opinions about them, because I think not a lot of things need to be talked about for these two teams. Because for Geek Fam, let's talk about Geek Fam first. For me,
Shout out Shevin.
shout out Sheffin, shout out Beloy. This is a Geek Fam start. It's very classic. It's a very classic Geek Fam start. It's like they always do. They do pretty bad in the first week, and then they improve as they go. And I think it's always a Geek Fam thing as well to have like new guys come around. It's always like they had to build Luke firstly. They had to build a boy. Next season they had to build a new jungler because Niall left. They had to then build for a new XP because Luke left, and then it just kept on, another jungler, and then now another jungler.
It's rough.
Another XP, another gold lane. So it's like it's always a Geek Fam. They always have the same arc every single season. It's not good, honestly, for Geek Fam. I hope they finally find the lineup that they can stick with. Yeah, because it's such a shame that we get to see them build to become such a good team, beating Onic M Series, becoming contenders, but then having to reset all over again. Kenziski, Beloy, I don't know. I just feel like I don't have anything to say about Geek Fam here in the first week. It looks like classic Geek Fam. They are just very weird in their first week.
You almost gotta feel bad for Beloy, because then right now he's basically serving as like Geek Fam Academy.
He's the coach.
Because he's been training and developing all these players, and none of them stick around. You know, I don't know why, how, what's the talks, what's the decision why some players are being transferred away. Of course there's some situations like Niall, which is like a bit different. Right? It's alone and all that, but you kind of feel for the guy, right? Because I'm a person who kind of like really values the whole like synergy and knowing your teammates, which is why on the English desk I'm really happy that we're all like chill with each other and we get along well. So I can't imagine, right? Like us, if I was in Beloyski's shoes, and let's say Gonie's a new guy, and we as always we bond, we teach him stuff. He gets good, right? And I'm like, okay, next season we're gonna have a great time casting. And then he moves, and I'm like,
it's like fuck,
the fuck, like, and then like, and then worst of all, I'll see, let's say a different. Let's say a different region, a different game, whatever. I'll see Gonie casting well, and I'm like, hey, I taught him that,
Yeah.
And then I see him benefit like these other fucking random nobodies benefit from like my efforts,
Yeah.
That's something I can kind of relate with. I feel bad for Beloy. Okay. So I really hope, again, I agree with you that they can finally find a lineup they can stick with, because I feel like it's way too ambitious to want to build from the ground up every single season. I think that it's just not really feasible, in a sense that not because the coach or whoever's coaching and the players aren't going to be good enough, but the league itself, MPLID. Some of you out there says, trash region and all that.
Whoa.
fine, whatever. But I mean, like, when it comes to like international aside, right? In MPL ID, the ID region in general, the competition is going up, like significantly. You know, Team Liquid ID weren't like players before.
Yeah,
they weren't like.
They were MPL players.
Okay.
Like
they were MPL players.
No, as in they're not like big players on the table.
They were no gamers. They were
on the poker
okay.
table. RRQ, big name, so they've been there, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But EVOS dipped down.
Yeah.
And for a long time, some other team took the place of EVOS as like the rival, as like the big name again.
Big name to RRQ.
Same thing with Onic, right?
Yep.
They were on top for the longest time, and then now, the gods became mortal again. It's proven that they can bleed, and they've went down. And usually other teams get back up there. But we're approaching a time, which is good, by the way, where eventually every single team is going to be relevant.
Yes.
Hopefully, right?
Hopefully.
But like, now more and more teams are getting relevant. So instead of having back then the relevant top 3 teams, the relevant top 4 teams, we can see like 6 teams, or we're like, okay, well, they're legit, right? It's reasonable to believe they can go further.
That's the goal.
Because even from a couple of seasons ago, it's been a while since we've known for sure. You have to remember, like back then, you can tell for sure who's not gonna make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, okay, there's 2 names from week 1. Those 2 guys aren't making it. We haven't had that situation in a while.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you want to keep building from the bottom up, and you expect to be able to match some of these teams that are gonna have a more stable roster, that's gonna be able to build more and more every season, right? Then it's
tough.
Yeah, and eventually, I feel like it's also a big mental toll on like the players and coaching staff of Geek Fam as well.
Yeah.
Because you can only go so long with what they're talking about, with like having your proteges poached away. The coach as well having to teach that again, to kind of work with to kind of reacclimatize with like your team again.
The longevity.
I feel like that kind of actually contributes to like burnout as well. So I really hope that Geek Fam can kind of find some, what do you want to call it, like structure, some consistency in their lineup.
With their lineup, I agree.
Because of the aforementioned factor.
Interesting. I think Geek Fam.
Long tangent. Okay.
Yes, sir. No worries.
I think if you're in MPL ID, you need 3 players in your 5 that can be key players. And Geek Fam only has 2. I think only Beloy and a boy. And I think they have yet.
Yeah,
it used to be Luke back then, right?
Right.
That was like 70 seasons ago. But okay. that was a while.
Damn.
But Geek Fam, they are looking still for that missing piece. Seems like with the changes and all. Vincent, unfortunately, last season, I don't know what happened back in the back rooms, but I don't think that he was also delivering the performance that they want, and so they change, and hopefully maybe with this they are looking for that,
the final 5.
Yeah.
I think so too.
They need to add more pillars.
Yeah, I think now we can move on to NAVI then, right? The final team here. Unfortunately for them, they're not number 9. They're actually number 8. NAVI are number 8, 9 Onic. It's so crazy to see Onic number 9, even though it's probably not going to stay that way. It's a good flex. Finally, we can shit on Gonie. But NAVI, I think this one we can keep it short again. Shive was amazing. I think X Magic did XBTR, by the way. Let's go Aldo. XBTR, by the way, amazing draft.
Hey, it's dope.
It's dope now.
Dope.
Against Liquid, that Valentina pick and then the CC pick was just...
And you called it.
I called it.
You
both.
pulled it.
Yeah, I called both, and I was just so happy because I was like, damn, that's the best pick right there. And it ended up being a win. I don't know why it was even close, by the way. Like, NAVI clearly are still very new, the players.
Yeah.
I will have to say, though, on the point of like when Arashi said, we don't know who is not going to make it to playoffs, I thought this season was going to be predictable for NAVI. I thought NAVI would be the team with DEWA, actually. I said DEWA and NAVI to not make it to playoffs. I think those 2 teams will probably not make it to playoffs. But now, after seeing week 1, DEWA, really good. NAVI, I still think they won't make it to playoffs, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because the competition is on another level. I think like NAVI are here. They're getting closer. They're improving. I hope they prove us wrong. Prove me wrong. But they are showing improvements. Like just in a single day, from getting smashed by RRQ to getting a game off of the defending champs. I think that's a really good look. Their drafts are getting better. Their players are getting more comfortable on stage. I think day one, it was also just crazy jitters against RRQ in their debut. First match of MPL. Not really the best first match to have as a new team,
rough,
as a debut. Like four new players. Aether's not new. 3 new players. Yeah, for me, Shiva is really good.
Yeah.
Aether has improved, but I would love to see what Washapal, their second jungler, could bring to the table. Cars, normal. I think like that's what we expect from Cars. That's what we expect from Cars. Cars, it's Cars. I think he's really good. Onic should have gone.
Wow.
Yeah, they needed XP.
Bad,
If they really wanted a good XP, but he's been there for a while now. You know, RBL now NAVI has always had good XPs. Dyron.
Cars.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think about Navi? Do you agree? Is it like what I said, or
What's their rumor again?
Hanafi?
Hanafi.
What's the rumor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's the roamer? Hanafi. Yeah.
What's the rumor?
Aldo.
I'm pretty sure he's a human being. I don't know.
He might not be. Have you seen his show? He's really good.
It's Aldo.
He might be an in-game character.
And his name is Aldo.
No, his name is Do.
Hanafi's name is Aldo.
Oh yeah, Hanafi's name is Aldo too. By the way. They have 2 Aldos in their team.
Dang. That's why he went with Do.
That's
Because they're like, yo, Aldo.
It's Hanafi. It's not even Aldo, so they won't get mixed up anyways.
Well, again, I feel like maybe it's because of Team Liquid last season. People are like, oh yeah, they can go in and do crazy, especially with the rebranding towards Navi, right? It's a big name. Let's be real. Most of us have heard at least the name Navi. So it's crazy. It still feels unreal to have them in Indonesia.
Facts.
It's like, wow, because they've been around for ages. Even back in
CS days.
CS, Dota, all these old OG esports, man.
Simple.
So, but yeah, I don't think it's ever reasonable to expect a team to come in or like new, even though they're not fully new, but like relatively new, fully rebrand and all that, and expect them to just reach really high up. I feel like Team Liquid was like a weird exception.
They're very rare. It's very rare.
They came out of nowhere. No one expected that too. So I think now some people are like, oh yeah, they can do it, but for the most part, usually it doesn't go that well. Usually when a new team joins NPL, it's always a big process, right? So I think a lot of talents, a lot of people generally always feel like, okay, this will be the season where they don't do so well, right? So if they don't do well, it's
fine.
Not a surprise,
normal.
and it's fine, But we talked about Cars a lot. We know that he's actually good. He thinks, he does calculations and all that for the laning and all.
Mathematics.
So the players we know, we hope the best for them as always. So if they can actually, I don't know, surpass our expectations and actually reach pretty high up, that'll be great, right? We'll be very happy for them. But that's just not the logical expectation for them. So I think for now, we have to wait and see. Obviously, they're rough around the edges, but as you mentioned, some things have already been improving, and that's more than a lot of teams starting out can ask for, right? To have very visible improvements off the bat. So I think they have good things coming their way.
I do believe so too. I think it's a good start here. I don't want to glaze onto them too much because it's still week 1, and I think unfortunately, Navi, I don't think you will make it to playoffs this season. Unfortunately. Still
the pain.
Please prove me wrong.
I agree.
Shive just pop off, be MVP of the season, win finals MVP.
Just him.
Yeah, finals MVP of the season. Shive pop off. Prove us wrong. But yeah, I think they are at this point, and they still have a long way to go. And as a new team, just enjoy the process and
enjoy your time in MPL.
Enjoy your time.
Who was the guy who said trust the process and enjoy the process and trust the process? Who was that?
Yeah, one of the coaches said that. Yeah,
yeah, that sticks out when he said it. I'm like,
the process.
Just like flashback.
I think it was Adi. Adi.
It might be Adi.
Damn, Adi in the loser interview. I will have to say, Onic, what the fuck are you doing? You should get Zetsuna back to the back rooms. I do not want to see Adi.
Shout out to
God in the
I want
back
to see Zetsuna, alright? That's one thing Onic can improve.
Shout out to Zetsuna.
But yeah, I think because we've gone on for an hour and 30 minutes, we're going to end it right here, guys. We won't be talking about MPLPH this week. Maybe next week we'll talk about MPLPH.
Is that all the teams? I thought there was one more team.
No, it's all the teams. All right, boys. So again, we cut out earlier because it's new. We're new here. It's a new thing. It'll get better as we go on with week 2, week 3, week 4, all the way to week 9. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed our talks. Even though it's been pretty long, we had a lot of jokes in there. We'll cut it short later on, and then in the next few weeks. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. You guys can check Arashi and Gonie socials all in the description down below. See you in the next Mirror Recap, nerds.